I'm here today with James Coley from Nomisma, and we are going to be talking about how you can improve your client journey. Say hello, James.
Hi, Simon. How are you?
Hello, James. It worked. Hello, let's get started. Without further ado, James, can you please show us how Nomisma works, please? Thank you.
That introduction, Simon. It's great. First and foremost, thanks for letting me come on today. It's been a good opportunity so that I can speak to your all of your followers. So I'm really looking forward to giving an overview of Nomisma today. So the first thing I'm going to do is just share my screen. Hopefully we can move on from there. So the first thing I'm going to do is just open up my slide deck here. So hopefully you can see that on your screen in front of you.
Yeah, we can see it, James. Yep.
Excellent. Fantastic. So really, just to follow up very briefly on the sort of introductory side of things, today was to give you enough of an overview of Nomisma to enable you to find out a little bit more about us and a little bit more about what Nomisma can potentially do for your business. Everything from essentially bookkeeping, going all the way through to practice management, accounts, tax, and everything else. But we'll go through that as I approach those topics as we run through. So a few slides to go through first and foremost, but then I'm going to go into the software and give you a flavor of what that looks like. Okay, so just a very brief background first and foremost on Nomisma. I'm just moving something to one side. So essentially, we've been around now in the marketplace for 8 years. With our software itself, we've actually got 72 developers, which is massive. We're continually adding to and making the software better. We've already got, pending integrations, which are very rapidly going to be introduced over these next few weeks, which is with Xero and with QuickBooks as well. But we'll go into that in a bit more detail later. But it's all about having everything available under one single interface and all within the cloud. And that's where we've got today. We've got well over 600 practices now actively using Nomisma in the marketplace. So what makes us a bit different? Like I was saying before, it's all about that seamless integration because you've got everything in one, everything in the cloud, rather than to look at sort of a more of a traditional desktop solution working with a cloud solution, which is kind of where you get that issue around sort of making tax digital, how to make the bookkeeping piece work with the rest of the software, which might reside within a desktop environment. So you've almost got a hybrid type of a solution. Whereas with ourselves, it's everything all in one under that single interface. And one thing that we do very differently is we've very much got a pay-as-you-grow type of structure. So it's very much from day one, you're paying for the amount of clients that you have within that system. So if you've got 100 clients, 200 clients, 1,000 clients, you will pay for the amount of clients that you have rather than to try and get to a price point where you've got a license fee, you're paying an annual fee, and then you may be paying additional fees for things like credits. Ours is just, there's no license fees, there's none of those setup fees. It's just a case of helping you to onboard with us and then having that reoccurring monthly fee for the full parts of the package which you want to choose as part of your solution. Because you don't have to have everything. You could choose just the bookkeeping element, you could just choose the accounts and the tax element, or you could choose everything as one complete solution. So, this is a nice little infographic kind of showing you what it is that Nomisma covers. Like I said before, it's everything from CRM, so think about the client onboarding piece of the journey, payroll, bookkeeping, final accounts and tax. So on the payroll aspect, we do things that are really, really big time savers like automated direct to payrolls. So the amount that's going to be going out, it's going to be going out in regular payment periods. So it'll automatically do the journaling back to bookkeeping. It'll automatically send out the pay slips, and it will give your clients an interface so they can go there on their mobile phone via the app, or they can go in via the desktop solution to have access to their pay slips. But then there's also a possibility to have almost like an add-on additional service where you can put your logo on those payslips, or you can charge a premium to have their logo on the payslips, thinking about a few pence per payslip. Again, it's another way to add value to the solution that you're providing to your clients. And again, that will link through the pension. So Aviva, Nest, People's Pension, you've got that automatic linkage in there as well. Thinking about bookkeeping,
James, just very quickly, if I can interrupt, because I've got a question on that. I've got a question on that automated payroll, and I won't mention any names, but I know one of the payroll providers talks about automated payroll for directors. But the actually what it is it's batch processing rather than complete automation. Just how does it work? Do you tell the system to automatically process the payroll, and when it hits the 28th of the month, it processes based on the previous information, or do you have to get involved and tell it each month?
So it's essentially it's the first point you mentioned. So the amount that's going to be going out. So it's almost pre-programmed at the beginning of the year. So what's going to be going out at those regular intervals, and you essentially just click it on to be automatic. They will automatically do that for you, automatically send out those payslips and do everything for the entire year for that individual. So completely automated.
So basically, once you've set it up, it's a setup and it processes. You don't have to retell it to automatically do it every month.
Right. Yes. So
brilliant. Excellent.
It's completely automated.
And I know that's a big thing within the community at the moment, because obviously when furlough came in, those that was processing payroll annually or quarterly got caught out a little bit with the directors' payrolls because they hadn't got a pay slip in February 20 or whatever it was in March. That's excellent. Thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, another really good thing that we're actually doing in the development for the mobile app as well, where you'll be able to do the timesheets, you'll be able to do holiday requests and holiday approvals as well, all within the mobile app. So like I said before, with these developers that we have, we're continually updating the software. We're making it better and better and better. And a really good point around that is that with all of our customers, all of our partners, we prefer to call our customers partners, is that you've got an opportunity to put into the software what it is that you would find to be useful and valuable for your business. We can add that into the roadmap. And it's not a roadmap where, we'll tell you about that might happen in X, Y, Z time. It's something that really happens. It comes onto the software. Like one of the things we added into the bookkeeping was an ability to have PDF bank statements that you might get from some clients at the moment, still on email, an ability to suck them straight into the system to convert to CSV without having to get those PDF bank statements and manually key in all that information. That was something that was asked for by our valued partners. And it's something we put into the software. So we're continually updating the software all the time. So going back to the sort of bookkeeping side of things, this is really useful. And I'll go into this in a little bit more detail because I've been speaking to so many more practices right now about MTD ITSA. And it's really relevant right now. I'm sorry if you can hear a chainsaw outside, by the way. Someone's decided to do the gardens. But essentially, in regards to the digitization of that information, which I'll go into a bit later, literally you need to take the mobile phone, take a picture of the receipt. I was speaking to a firm more recently, which had an awful lot of Uber drivers, taxi drivers. And when they're driving around, they're basically running their whole business on their phone as it is. So if they've got a mobile app on there, they're taking a picture of that receipt, they're uploading it in real time. So all that information is going back into Nomisma for when they've gone out and they've got their fuel in that particular instance. So again, about having all of that contained within one cloud solution. So on there as well, it copes with multiple currencies. It's got that receipt capture. It's got the automated bank fees, which again are unlimited. But also on that, just one final point is that you're able to do the payments too. So your client's client is able to go onto the invoice that might have been generated with the mobile app, click on payments, and then make that direct bank payment via TrueLayer as well. Sorry, Mark, I think
you're blowing my mind somewhat, James. So I just want to get, and you might, if you're going to cover this in a moment, then just say, yes, we're going to get to that, Simon. But with regards to the receipt capture and the OCR, that's within Nomisma, yeah?
So the OCR is something that we're working on, we're developing right now. The reason why I've left it on there is something we are looking to release. We're working with the developer right now so that it'll be able to pick out things like, the dates, the total amounts. It's still something you'll need to check, just like you need to do with the likes of Dex. when the information comes in, you still got to check it, because they might have gone out and, when they got their fuel, they've got themselves a chocolate bar as well, or something like that, and it's added to the total. So the total will be wrong. You still need to deduct that off. So it's something you still need to check anyway. But again, it's all about adding that efficiency as we go on, and adding these little bits that make it run better, run faster, run more productively for all of our partners.
Yeah. So just for clarity, the receipt capture element is a direct replacement to Dext, HubDoc, any auto entry, any of the other receipt capture systems that will work instead of those. Yeah.
Essentially, I mean, right now it's not there. When we've developed that, that's absolutely the solution that we're working towards. But like with anything with receipt capture, it's something you will still need to check, but there's less of an element to need to check that, as in it will be able to pull through those totals for you, but still it's worthwhile checking things when they get put on.
Mentally for me, James, what I'm doing is I'm working out what I can get rid of and have all in the same place. And just on the payment aspect of it, what the payment element will do is create the payments in the client's banking software, or something like Telaroo or Modular, or
through TrueLayer. Yeah, works through TrueLayer. TrueLayer is the integration piece with the bank. So, I mean, I'll actually show you. I'll get to that in a few moments, Mark, and I'll show you that in a bit more detail, because we've got some screenshots to show you, and I'll go in. I'll show you what the receipt capture, how that kind of works within the bookkeeping solution as well. But yep, absolutely, I shall get to that. But just to sort of clarify, we don't have that direct OCR piece in there yet. That is something that is coming. When we have that, then it's going to be looking something to either replace something that you're using elsewhere at this point in time, or it's to add to something that you don't have as yet as well. So they're kind of like the two fundamental pains that will look to resolve.
Brilliant, excellent. Thank you, James.
Okay, thanks, Simon. Just going back to my slide on here. So also within Nomisma, there's an ability to be able to do the final counts and the tax as well. And again, I will get onto the pricing side towards the end of and close of the overview today. But if you took a typical limited company as an example, and you did the bookkeeping for them within Nomisma, which works out sort of £5 plus the VAT, so £6 on a monthly basis, you're also going to get the ability to do the accounts, the CT600, and those self-assessments for that client. Whether it was a limited company, a couple of directors, you'll be able to do the self-assessment for those two directors. Again, practice management as well, all included, no additional cost. That's how the system works on a cost aspect. But with the final accounts and tax, you've got some really fantastic time-saving features on there. So say on the set of accounts, because you've got the bookkeeping values, you've got drill down the accounts. I mean, I was speaking to a partner more recently, and they were telling me they're saving between 2 and 3 days worth of time per client just by having that drill down feature, which you don't get from some of the other software providers in the marketplace. But in there, for instance, on the self-assessment side, there's even a mobile app. And on that mobile app, you can do the information request. So if you think about maybe some of your typical clients, which are never in front of a computer, or maybe at the end of the week they might be, or maybe the end of the month. I mean, I know, because I've had a plumber around to my house doing some work. It took them about 3 weeks before I could get an invoice. But if they can manage that on their phone, they can do the information request on the phone. They can digitally sign their return on their phone as well. That just speeds up the process. And that's why so many other firms have been adopting Nomisma during the previous few months, because self-assessment season, getting the information from the clients, trying to get them to sign off the documents and everything, and then to manage that in a practice management system, that's been the pain point that we're able to solve with this solution. So again, you've got your digital signatures in there by Sign Easy. You've got digital signatures in accounts by Sign Easy. Again, that's all included. Everything that I talk about here is all included as standard. Then on the CRM side, this is about that complete end-to-end onboarding with the clients. So in there, you've got the ability to do the quotes, to do the proposals. You can do as many as you want. You're not limited whatsoever. And then again, you're signing them off, or the client signing them off, I should say, by Sign Easy. So if I could give you a typical journey of that, if you were sat with your client, you've got your iPad with you, or your touch screen, or whatever interface, maybe your laptop. You sat in front of the client for the first time. You're having that business discussion with them. So rather than being just a commercial visitor that would go in, ask, do you want accounts doing? Do you want some tax advisory? You want some bookkeeping doing? Right, here's our costs. And then they'll get 3 different quotes, and then they'll just choose the one in the middle, not the expensive one, not the cheapest one, the one in the middle, they'll go with them. And you're not able to uncover that additional value in that discussion. But going in with sort of equivalent of an iPad, as an example, you're able to have that business discussion and be that business doctor rather being that commercial visitor. But going through on the CRM system, you're able to sort of tap, right, different types of services that you're going to provide. You're able to tap for additional services, maybe third-party services. Maybe you want to work with an insurance broker. Maybe you want to provide additional covers. You put all that within the quote. You get to the end of the process while you're sat in front of them. It generates that quote for them. They choose the quote they want. It generates the proposal for them. You can then just flick it over to them via on the actual system that you got in front of you on the iPad, and they can digitally sign it then and there while they're in front of you. And before you've even got back to the office, the work can start for that client. And it's that quick because everything's in real time. Everything's in the cloud. So everything is instantly available in that environment. You don't have to write down what you need to provide to the client, get back to the office, pass it on to maybe someone in administration. Someone in administration maybe collates all that information, puts together a quote. This might take, a day, 2 days, maybe even a week before you can get back to that client with the proposal, talking about covering all the different things that you've had in that discussion with them. Whereas this, it's instant, it's immediate. Plus, your prospect that you're speaking to, they don't have all that additional time to look elsewhere in the marketplace. Because right now, I mean, let's face it, over the past couple of years, clients are absolutely shopping around. They're looking for more value from the service that's being provided by their professional body, whether that's accountant, bookkeeper, insurance broker, solicitor, any professional services that they've perhaps stuck with for the past 7-8 years. They're now shopping around the marketplace. And this helps you to be very reactive when you're having these discussions, to be proactive in what you're providing as a solution. So that's just a very quick story around, how you can use that value piece. But within CRM, you've got unlimited text messaging, your emails. So if you've got an email, one of your client managers is maybe out sending an email to a client. It's got, Ted.Smith at ABC Limited. It will pick out Ted.Smith at ABC Limited is one of your clients and automatically file that email within CRM. So I wouldn't say it's a document management system, but it does store all of your emails, and it does gives you an ability to store all of your additional documents as well in what I like to call value portals. And these portals are switched on document storage areas for your clients that they can access 24/7. So thinking about previous 3 years sets of accounts, mortgage application documents, payroll information, any other additional value piece, maybe help through Corona, giving them advice, maybe through a third party you're offering, health and safety manuals, anything else that you can think of, you can put in this environment because there's no limits on the space in that environment either. So it's all about being that 1% different, that 10% different than what your competitor is able to provide as a service to your client. So this is another way to really empower your client managers, or indeed yourself, if you're the individual that's having those business discussions with your clients. Overall, we've got seamless practice management, and that's over all of compliance. When I say compliance, I mean payroll, the final accounts and tax, that side of things. Once you've got the jobs in those environments, so they've already come on board as clients, that's all completely managed through the system. So self-assessment, you've got your information request going all the way through to being filed. It's all monitored throughout that process. So when you're doing each of those stages, automatically checks off in practice management. And that's just included as standard. One final point I'll mention on here, and then I'll go into get a bit more detail around what software is capable of. You've got your full phone support, you've got chat support, you've got email support. We want to help you. We don't charge for training. We do one-to-one training with you to help you to get up to speed with the product, but it's very intuitive and very, easy, very, very easy user interfaces. So you can typically learn as you go if you want to do that as well, because on there we've got almost walk me guides, which you can click on. It tells you what to click next and everything else. So it's really intuitive in the way that it works. But we've also got this final piece, which is our partner program. So, I mean, Glenn actually heads up our team over in our partner program, partner success team. And we want to help you. So we help you with marketing tools for your clients, to be able to proactively approach additional clients to bring on board new business. And we want to help you to grow with us as we grow as well. So there's lots of things that we can do to help. And again, that's just included as standard. For no additional cost, no particular licensing level that you need to hit to get into those special areas for that help. We want to help you from day one. And that's why we're very different in the marketplace. Okay, now the first thing I wanted to actually discuss with you today, which I thought was really relevant, would make the best use of everyone's time today, was to talk a little bit about MTD-ITSA. Now, I mentioned before about the bookkeeping app. So Simon, this is going back over what we discussed before. So essentially, now I've done this as a series of screenshots because relying on the Zoom working with my mobile phone, this was a bit more successful. So essentially, you'd log into that environment. Your client would be logging into that environment via the mobile app, and it's very much a business tool. And in that business tool, what they're able to do is they're able to, raise their sales invoices. They're able to do their bank reconciliation, and they've got that receipt capture in there as well. So let's put a few screenshots to show you what that potentially would look like. So say for this instance, one of your clients, they wanted to send out, an invoice for payment. They can do it all within the mobile app itself. While they're going through, click on to make payment, click on send. That will go then through to the client. They'll be able to make payment. But then in regards to the receipt capture side of things, you've got a camera on there, you're taking a picture of maybe that fuel receipt. So that example, going back to that example that I had before, you're going out, your taxi driver or whoever it is, they've gone out, they've got the fuel receipt, taking a picture of that straight into the system. So in there, they're able to obviously put that into the system, give that sort of invoice number, as it were, and then they can then put that on as a particular posting, which will then appear over in Nomisma itself. So just to prove the point on that, let me just minimize out of this a moment, and I'll just show you what I mean. There we go. So I'm straight into the bookkeeping now, as if by magic. Obviously done quite well in the sales this particular period, but looking at the sales first and foremost, I've got that invoice number on here. So let me just go and find that first and foremost. I'm going to bring that up quickly just to show you. So if you can imagine, this invoice is being created from the mobile app. I'm doing it on the mobile that we just looked at before in those screenshots. But on there, the client itself will have to click on that Pay Now button. When I was talking about that linkage before, Simon, it was about working through TrueLayer. So on here, then they could make that payment by choosing their bank and moving forward with that particular payment itself, and doing that all directly within the system. Now, I'll actually just do one thing on my mobile phone, which I will do, rather than a Blue Peter. Here's one I prepared earlier. If I just take a very quick picture, so it's just like a standard picture I'm taking there. So if this was a receipt, as an example, let me just take that. That's just uploading to the system. So if I just come out of that a moment, and I go into my dashboard for this particular client, now this will then appear in my pending receipts area. If I just click to open that, we can see, just let me check, 24th. I could go into that, and it's showing that image just that I took from behind me. So it's immediate. It's essentially straight away that the information goes into the system. You don't have to wait for any sort of historical information to come through. It's immediate. And that's what you need, especially when you're using it as a business tool. So I won't actually do it in this particular case because I haven't got an invoice, but on here, I'd be putting things like the date. I put like a total amount on there, then I'd search, and I'd search to make sure there's no duplicates that are already existing. Then I could go and add that receipt manually in this particular case, if I wanted to do so. Also, if you've maybe got a receipt through from a client and it's all kind of screwed up and all crunched up and you can't read it, you can also send through an inquiry to the client. So again, here, this is when I could enter the details that I need to do for that expense. If I just click back and send a query, I could then just do it straight from the system. Can you send me this through again? Or I'm querying this as a receipt for your business at all. What's going on here? And that's, again, all contained within the system itself. So it gives you that bird's eye view of what's going on with that bookkeeping client. So I just wanted to show you that very briefly first and foremost, because I think it's really relevant right now that we're looking towards MTD ITSA. And just a couple of very quick points, and then I'll go into the rest of the software. But I thought it quite relevant to cover that today, because essentially with the Nomisma bookkeeping solution, we've got our OCR, which is in the pipeline. You've got the bank feeds, which are unlimited through TrueLayer. You've got those integrated TrueLayer payments on the invoices. You've got the app. You've got the PDF to CSV converter, which might be replacing an element maybe of Dexter or a different system that you might be using for that particular function. If you have clients that are still giving you by email those PDF bank statements, you've got automatically recurring invoices, journals, and then we've got that Xero QuickBooks integration in the back end as well. If you've got any clients that are maybe direct with Xero that won't move across to Nomisma or using some of the back end ERP pieces that plug into that, well, that's fine, because you can just have that information pushed into Nomisma to do the accounts, to do the self-assessment returns for that particular client.
James, I've got a couple of questions. Bode, I've got your question, and we'll be covering off how we transfer over to Nomisma from other systems before we finish today. Ashley's asked, James, am I right in thinking that this would replace the need for QuickBooks and Tax Filer? And Steve has asked, can the client get access to do the bookkeeping in Nomisma? Or so is it a product, Nomisma bookkeeping? Is that just for the accountant to do it, or can the client also do it as well?
So I've just taken a note. So I'll answer the last one first, because that's the first one that I remember. So yes, the client can absolutely do that as well. So they can either do from the mobile app and have access to that, or they can have access to what you're looking at now, which is the desktop version. So the desktop version, your client can go in, they can do their sales in here, they can do their expenditure, they can link up then to banking on here as well. So it can be done as the desktop version, very much the same as on the mobile version as well. So either or is the way that your clients can access the bookkeeping element. Will it replace QuickBooks and Tax Filer? Yeah, absolutely. So your client would then be using, instead of using the QuickBooks element, they could be using the Nomisma bookkeeping element. Then for the filing, I'll go through a process with you now to show you that. But essentially, if I go back to my dashboard, so let me come out of this client and I'll show you my main dashboard for all of my clients. So I'm just going to open that up on my other screen and drag that over. There we go. So this is essentially all of my clients that I do all of my productive work for. So I've got my bookkeeping jobs, final accounts, VAT jobs, RTI, CIS, self-assessment, partnership, and auto enrollment. Then I've got my type of client down the left-hand side. So this is like my bird's eye view of what's going on with my entire business. So going back to, yes, you can on the bookkeeping side. So if I go into a bookkeeping client as an example, which was, Barney's Bowler Arm, a very Simpson-esque. On here, I can also then drill into the final accounts. And again, it's going to pull all that information through. So, well, it's not going to pull all the information through. The information is already there, basically, is a better way of explaining that. So if I go into my final accounts and I run a full set, just to show you the drill down aspect of this. So if you could imagine the beginning of that client journey, the client's been using the mobile app or the desktop version, so the equivalent of what they'll be using in QuickBooks. They've done their input of that information, whether you've taken it on from them just doing the receipt capture piece, or they might do the bank reconciliation as well. You trust them to do that piece too. They can go in and do that. So on your end, you just need to go in to check that, go into the full account. So on here, I've got my cover page, got my company information, I've got my director's report, my accountant's report, got my income statement. So again, this is all very much been designed for the accountant side, because it's looking down from the top level. So if I went into something like, the staff costs, I've then got that drill down. It's opening this drill down on a separate tab. So we're looking here in the ledger book. So it's taking me right back here, but I've still got it open here. And this is what makes us very different as well. I mean, this isn't just for accounts, for bookkeeping and everything else. If you wanted to look at maybe a partnership that consisted of a farm shop and a B&B, you can look at them both at the same time. You can have as many tabs open at the top as you require. But here for the drill down, I mean, this drill down feature that I mentioned before, one of the recent partners I spoke to told me it's saving between 2 and 3 days worth of productive time just by having that drill down, because I know that's not available in some of the tax side. I mean, you mentioned tax filer, but there's others that don't have this drillable feature. So you have to almost close this, come back out, go into the bookkeeping, change it there, refresh it through, go back into it. You don't have to do that here. And that pain that you're solving very much in this environment. So when it comes to even looking at the detailed income statement, again, you've got that feature to be able to go down to all of that underlying data to see what it's made up of, to do any relevant analysis or change that you need to do in all of those figures. So then when it comes to doing CT600, for that particular client, all you need to do is run the CT computation. And it's done because it's already got all of those figures. It's got all of that information already for the profits here. So that's 7597 will be brought straight through. And again, with the accounts, with the CT600, you can do all the filing on here. You can do all of the relevant changes that you need to do, losses, deficits, excess amounts, overpayments, repayments. But we've also got the CT600 A&L on here as well. So you can do changes as well on there around, the pool, general pool and everything else directly on the system. So you're not having to think, oh, well, we haven't got that other form on there, so we're going to have to enter another product. And this is what Nomisma is really solving. Whenever I speak to other accountants, other bookkeeping practices, they're saying, yep, well, we're using maybe we're using XYZ Accountancy Manager or something for the practice management. We're also using Center for the practice management. We're also using a whiteboard. We're also using, for accounts and tax, we're using Iris, but we're also using QuickBooks for our bookkeeping. We're using Xero for our bookkeeping. We're using FreeAgent for our bookkeeping. We're using spreadsheets for those MTD clients that we're dealing with at the moment. We're going to have to move them across to one of our licenses in Xero, and that's going to be sort of £20 to £25 per user. And being able to come across to Nomisma, oh, well, you can kind of do all that in one, or at least you can take an element of those clients, especially with MTD, thinking about ITSA, at least you can move those clients from that headache that you would have had, that pain of getting that data across 5 times in the year by moving them across to the bookkeeping in Nomisma without having to put them onto one of those bigger licenses from some of our competitors in the marketplace where it's sort of, 5 times the cost.
Yeah, and that's certainly one of the problems we have faced in getting rid of working papers. So we've been working to get rid of working papers for 18 months or so. And one of the challenges we've got is having to flick backwards and forwards between where we have the statutory accounts and where we have the bookkeeping. So the ability within that to drill down into the actual numbers that make up the financial statements of a click of a button is a really interesting concept. So thank you for that, James. That was Ashley's and Steve's answers. I'm just slightly conscious of the time, and I know I keep interrupting you. So, Bode, will this replace the need for receipt bank? My understanding from what James said earlier is yes, it will, but just not quite at the moment with regards to the OCR aspect.
Right. Not yet. We're not quite there yet, but we are moving towards that type of offering that we'll be able to do in the future. But for right now, no. But yes, it's something we are working on with the OCR. It's not there yet, but we are absolutely working on that.
Excellent. I'll let you carry on, James. Thank you.
Okay, no worries. So I've kind of jumped around a little bit just to show you that sort of flow from bookkeeping going all the way through to the accounts to CT600. Now, let me just look at self-assessment for a while to kind of complete that piece, because we're talking about obviously the digitization of that data and being able to get that data and that workflow from start to finish. So let me give you an example of that in self-assessment. I'm just going to close out of this particular bookkeeping client, which I've got open there. I'll go back to my main dashboard screen where I've got all of my jobs, everything else that I'm doing on a daily basis within my business. Now, on the right-hand side, I've got all my deadlines, which are flagged up straight away, whether they be in final accounts, whether, the confirmation statements, they need to jump on all those VAT returns. I can jump straight into the job from there to be able to complete it. So I've got that bird's eye view of exactly what's going on within the business. So looking at self-assessment, I said I'd give that as an example. Again, all of these have their own dashboards too. So final accounts, you can see exactly what's going on. You've got your main key leading information across the top. Then you've got who's doing what. You can drill down for any of these highlighted links. Same thing in partnership returns. Same thing with VAT returns. You got your payroll, CIS down here as well. Let's look at self-assessment because that's the one I've been mentioning. So if I go to my dashboard there, I can see immediately what's going on during tax season. Got all my main key line information across the top. And this is the practice management element below. So going from not started, sending out that questionnaire, all the way through to them being filed online is the process. So the first thing I'd want to do is send out that tax questionnaire. So it's really easy to do. You can do it by email if you want. This is one of the options. Automatically picks up this person because they're the only one in mind not started at this point in time. That's why it's only picked up that one. So you don't have to think, who do I need to send it? What? It's already picked up automatically for you. Click on next, generates this email for you automatically, gives you that email link. They can then fill in an HTML document with all the relevant questions. You get that information back in the system. Quite often, I mean, that sounds good in reality, but you never fill in all the questions. We can send a reminder. Really easy to do. Exactly the same process. A couple of clicks, sends that through to them. Now, I mentioned before about the ability. So if I go to my clients, just to show you this, the ability to do this by the mobile app too. So on here, you can see on the right-hand side, I've got some sort of teal-colored logos with the mobile phone on. So if I pick on one of those as an example, now, when you think about offering apps to clients, the first thing you think about is kind of that pain element of, I'm going to have to educate them on what the app looks like, where it is, what's their login details, how's that going to be set up. They're going to ask me the number of questions, then they'll just give up. So what we've done is it does all this for you. It's brilliant. So it gives them a username and a password, sets it up automatically on this email, and it also gives them the link here. So whether they're using an Android phone or whether they're using an Apple iPhone, that's all they need to know. That's the only thing they need to be able to figure out. Then they go here just to prove the point, get access to the app, and on the app, they can then go through, they can view their tax return, they can update their personal information, and then they can review and e-sign that tax return all within the mobile app. So that's what I wanted to show you very briefly, because it's all about having that information. If I go to this client as an example, if you can imagine they've just done that information request, or indeed they might have signed their return, it's going to drop it here immediately into your document section. So you don't have to think about chasing emails to get documents and compile them and put them into one of those yellow folders within Microsoft. It's all held here within documents, and it will start to populate these documents on the right-hand side as these are completed. I mean, at any stage, you can upload additional documents to this area. So it's kind of like your document storage area for this client, for this year, for that return. So it's all held in the same area. You can then send them across to clients at any time, choose what to attach, send it out directly from the system. So again, it's having everything in one place rather than using a multitude of different systems for that comms process. Looking then over at communications itself, now I mentioned obviously you can do the digital signature and self-assessment on the app. If they don't want to use that, well, that's fine as well, because you can just do an e-signature via the system here. Gives them that e-signature link, which I'm sure you might have seen in the past. I mean, this one's with Sign Easy, which is built in, no additional cost, like Adobe Sign, something like that. They pick the signature, they sign it off, you get it back in the system, automatically updates that workflow process, moves on to the next stage, so you can see in the bird's eye view what's going on with all of your clients around self-assessment. So it's kind of having that system all in one place, which is giving you that efficiency gain. Now, one area I've not looked at yet, I appreciate getting a little bit short on time, and so I'll jump into it very quickly, and that was on the CRM side. That's about bringing on board your client in the first instance. So you're going out, you're having those meetings with those prospects, those business discussions, and you're doing the quotes, you're doing the proposals. So I'll show you a very quick element of that side of things. I mean, again, this is something that we help you with as part of the setup, but you have your practice details on here, communications. So it's going to link up and be an email that comes from your business rather than coming from a Nomisma email, as an example. It's going to come from you. And on the SMS side, you can have it set up so it says from your accountant rather than unknown number or something like that. Workflows, you can have as many workflows on here as you want. This is all about solving that pain that you might have had around automation. With these workflows, you might have them set up. I mean, I've got someone here for client year-end accounts deadline email, goes to the client, maybe the client manager, on a certain time before, after, or equal to the year-end date or the year due date. But you can set up workflows for whatever you want as well. So chasing bad debt as one, you might have one for placing certain orders within the business. Anything that you can think of doesn't have to be Nomisma specific. I'm talking about any type of workflows within the business, because similar to any other business in the marketplace, it's all about having a level of automation within those processes that makes your business run better, run quicker, run faster. And the more efficient it is, the more productive time you can have in front of your clients. So that's something that you can do directly within the system. Now, I won't go into all of these areas on here, just the final point on here. This is where you can set it up so it links automatically to your Gmail or Microsoft 365. So like I said before with that example at the beginning of the conversation, you could be sending an email out from ted.smith@ABC Limited. Oh, that's one of our clients. And it automatically stores the email against the contact card. So essentially, you've got your leads within the system. When you've got your leads on here, if I just go into one of these as an example, actually, I'll go into quoting and contracting and show you there. So if I wanted to do a new quote, I could then pick that lead, pick it from leads, go and look for that. I'm going to bring in Ted Smith, show you Ted Smith a lot. So I automatically picked up this company, it's a small business. I'm going to say I got this from a referral. I'm going to do it for new business, select my contract owner. So this is that story. I'm sat in front of my prospect in their office, and I'm doing this quote as I speak to them. So I've input their information. What type of services I'm going to offer? Well, probably going to offer my premium package, so it automatically selects all these for me. But I might have some ad hoc services or additional services like I was talking about.
James, I can't hear you. Your microphone has just gone off, I think. I can't hear you. Can anybody else hear James? No, Mark can't hear neither, James. I think it's your end rather than my end.
I can hear you now.
Oh, there you go. I got you back again there. Brilliant.
You got me back. Sorry, where did you lose me?
When you click the app advisory button on the previous page.
Right.
Before you pressed to generate the fee.
So apologies for that. So what essentially I was doing there is just selecting the types of services, and by default it will roll through, pick out all those different services for the quote, and it's come to this page. And on this page, it's given me 4 options. The reason being is when you offer a quote to a client, they won't choose the most expensive or the cheapest, they'll choose the one in the middle. So at this point, you can then add in a custom version. Say, hold on a minute, I'm not really going to offer them my light option. I'm going to offer them these 3. You could change the pricing. You might want to put it onto monthly to make it look nicer on the quotation. Click on next. I'm going to leave that as is. I'm going to change the details. So I want the payment for bank transfer. You've got your optional terms, which you could have put in as part of the settings piece. I'm just going to put some ad hoc ones here. Click on next. And it's generated the quote for me already. So that's taken what, a few little clicks going through. Generate the quote, put it on the template that I've got with obviously have your logo on there and everything else. Got the different services. So you could be literally turning around that iPad, showing them this is the quotes that I'm offering you. This is what we're including. Here's our statement of facts, really useful to have, because then you can say, hold on a minute, you said that you had 2 employees, you've actually got 10, we're going to raise your fee. So it's about just bolting the back doors, making sure that they're agreeing and you're agreeing to the same thing, so that you can upsell or offer additional value throughout the course of the year should any of these things change within that period. So I'm happy with that. So I can either send the quote to them, so it's going to go out via the system, or I can skip and go to contract. They sat in front of me and they said, you know what, James, we're going for your premium package. So I need to select premium on here. It's already pulled through all the figures. I just need to put the account number, because he's paying by bank transfer for this particular quote. Hopefully I've put enough numbers on there. Generate the contract. It's going to put that director guarantee letter. So again, that's another one of the templates that's in there, along with the engagement letters and everything else. So I'm going to generate and review the contract. At this point, I can either mark it as signed, so it's sat in front of them, they just literally signed it, or I can send it through to them. It's going to go out by Sign Easy. They can digitally sign that then in that case via the system. And then that comes back in. So it's about having that continual onboarding process all built within Nomisma. So in this case, I'm not going to preview. I'm just going to continue. So sign the contract. And it's a case of going through the onboarding process. Now, I won't go through all of these parts on here. I'm going to go on one that I've got in progress at the moment. Just to show you that you can do the credit checks on here. It goes via Credit Safe for the AML credit check. You can do that on here on the system. So it's £2 per check. Then you've got self-assessment, obviously input the relevant details, agent authorization. So you can do the 64H here. Professional clearance, what it will do, it will set up a direct portal with the previous accountant. You can then request all of this relevant information, again, held within the system. You don't have to go out the system to email that previous accountant to ask them for all of these things. It's all kept within the system here. So you've got that efficiency side. But the really good thing is that regardless of who the client manager is that's doing this process, it will be uniform throughout your business. So everyone will be doing the same thing. So you know that quality of service for your clients will be equal throughout, rather than some client managers doing one thing, some client managers doing another thing, someone else is doing it on Word, someone's got a different template for the engagement letter, someone who's got the master, it solves all of that pain point around the onboarding. So again, once this has been completed, then you go through to the compliance sync. And at that point, it's going to generate all of those jobs for me over in compliance. So it's going to drop all of those jobs for me back onto my main dashboard screen, depending on what it was that client decided to go forward with. Then they're all managed within practice management. So again, you've got from very beginning, prospect engagement, going all the way through, client onboarding, going all the way through to the jobs that they've got to do. Then it's managed through practice management throughout the course of the year. And then they get access to all of those value things like the value portals, the mobile apps for their payroll, the mobile app so they can get their pay slips, the mobile app so they can take pictures of their receipts, they can do their bank reconciliation, they've got their contacts on there, all their suppliers, everything else, so they can manage that process while they're out and about. So it's all about adding so much more value to what you can provide to your clients. But I think I'll draw it to a close there. There's an awful lot more that I could discuss on here, but then I'll get carried away with myself and go on forever. But I think that's probably enough of a snapshot to give you an idea of what Nomisma is potentially capable of and which particular parts might be relevant for your business. Obviously, there's payroll on here as well, which we've not had a chance to get to, but that's something we're more than happy to show you in more detail.
Excellent. Thank you, James. And Mark will now pop in the chat box if you would like to have a conversation with James in order to go through all of the stuff that James hasn't shared with you today and take the next step to investigate whether Nomisma is something that you want to look at. So Mark's just pop that in the chat box. All you need to do is just click that link and book a session to have a full in-depth personalized conversation with James. There's a couple of things, James, that we need to cover off. One is the investment in the software. So what's it going to cost me? And secondly, or firstly, whichever way around you want to handle it, is how do we move people over to Nomisma? So if I'm currently using one of the other providers, how do we move across?
So, I mean, in regards to moving across, first and foremost, whether you want to choose to move just a bookkeeper or you're choosing whether full suite accounts tax, the full entire solution, there are options for both. So it's not just all at once or just one piece. It's completely up to you, the options that are available for that. But yes, we help with the data migration. We can help you with that. So whether you're coming from, BTC, Iris, Digita, any CCH, any of the other providers in the marketplace, we can help you with that. And we've got processes in place with our data migrations team to help you to do that and to enable that to happen. So we can have more of an in-depth discussion, I think, around that if that's something that you want to have, where we can touch on more of the granular points on exactly the type of data that's brought across. But to give you a typical example, I mean, I know someone that's come across to us literally very recently, and we were able to do their data migration within a week, and they're coming across full suite, everything. And, that's a 3-partner business. So yes, we can absolutely do it. And we very much want to help you to be able to do that and to enable that process. So we do have that in place. So coming across, yes, we can help with that.
So
The second part of that,
just so I can get clarity, James, just because it's important. When you say help, what some organisations consider to be help is a 10-page fact sheet with a step-by-step process that we as the accountant have to work through, and then you go all the way through to where the actual new software provider support you and press the buttons for you and do the conversion and all that sort of stuff. Whereabouts on that scale are you, James?
well, I guess to answer that, there's two options. First option is the one that we help you with. Now, we can provide you with what we're calling is import mapping, the CSVs, the CSV import maps. Now, we can help you. Either you can give us a copy of your data and we will marry that up to what we have as the import fields and do that import for you. That's one of the ways we can do it. Or we can provide you with those templates because you might know better which systems and what type of data, and you can do your data cleansing at that time because you've probably got like ZZ records and duplicate records that you might want to cut out the system at that stage, in which case you can choose and then move that across to these spreadsheets and we will do the import. So we'll do the import. We will absolutely do that for you. Don't worry, we're not going to give you a step-by-step saying, click here, do that. We don't do that piece. So they're the two different ways in which we can help you. Another thing that we can do is a paid migration. On the paid migration, we will literally take it all off your hands and do it for you. That's another option as well. But the majority, in fact, all of the ones that I've certainly spoken to in the past 12 months have opted for one of the first two things that I said, which was on the CSV import, either we give them copies of those, whether it's for accounts, tax, CRM, so you've got different ones, if you can imagine, for those different ones in different fields, different numbers like UTR number, everything else, all the different details and the totals, and they can marry them up, or we can do that for you if you give us a copy of that data. So they're kind of the two ways on the data side. Does that make sense? Does that cover that question?
It makes perfect. I've got much more clarity around that, James. Thank you.
Brilliant. And the other thing I think you mentioned was the cost side of things. So that's why I brought up this screen. So essentially, like I said before, if you do the bookkeeping for a client, that's by far the best option because you also get the software included for final accounts, for the CT600, and for all of those self-assessments that you need to do for that entity. So if it's a limited company and there's two directors, you'll have to do everything full suite, everything apart from the payroll, all for that £5 plus VAT, which you would then more than likely charge back to the client, which may be used to paying, much more than that in the common marketplace. I think 5 times that value, possibly, with some of the other just bookkeeping alone solutions. So that's one way in which you can do it. Now, you might have some clients where you think, hold on a minute, I don't do the bookkeeping for them, but what I do need to do is I need to do the self-assessment for those particular clients. Well, that's fine as well. So what you could do is you could either, say if they're using Xero as an example. So we've got that integration coming very soon where you'll be able to just push that TB straight into the system, then you'll be able to do the accounts and the self-assessment, and then you'll be working on what's known as a credit system. So you can pay at the end of the month for what you've used. So if you did maybe 5 submissions, you pay for 5 at £5 plus VAT each. Or if you know that over the course of the year, you're going to do 200 of these, buy a block bulk of 200 of them, it'll expire in 18 months, and then it works out £2 plus VAT per credit. So you've got the cost break. So it's almost thinking about, well, which of my clients will reside here and which of my clients will reside here. But thinking more about MTD-ITSA, a lot more of your clients are going to reside up here, and it's going to make much more sense to have them on that bookkeeping solution because you're going to get that. Otherwise, you've got to think about ways to get that information 5 times a year. So the only ones that are going to reside down here are those that are maybe already using Xero and paying them direct, that £25 a month, and they won't move across to Nomisma. Then those ones, you can still do the work for them, but it would be a case of just using it on a credit system. Does that make sense on the sort of different tiering that you can use there for your clients?
It does. It makes perfect sense to me. So just for clarity on the versions where you're paying per client, there is no restriction on users.
Correct.
Okay.
So
yeah, go on. Sorry.
So to explain that, I'll actually start with CRM. Now, CRM, that is cost on a per user basis. And in CRM, you've got access to the onboarding process. You've got access to company secretarial. So if you can think in your business, well, hold on a minute, I want all of my client managers to be able to do their own quotes, then they'd all need access there. And that'd be £29 per user per month. Or you might have 2 administration users or 1 administration user that would need access to CRM, in which case 1 or 2 times £29. And that's on a per user basis, but then unlimited on the number of clients that you have in there, prospects, existing clients, portals, all unlimited. Over in compliance, so if you think the bookkeeping, the accounts, tax, self-assessment, all that side of things, unlimited on users. You can have as many as you want. It does not matter. I know from my experience with other software platforms, you got peaks and troughs in the year where you need more users all of a sudden, then you contract back down. Well, with us, you can have as many as you want whenever you want, and we don't charge on the additional users. So you can have those during those peaks, self-assessment, you can have someone employed part-time, put them on the system, they get access to it, it's all in the cloud. When they're no longer employed with you, you switch them back off again. So really useful for coping with those peaks and troughs in the year as well.
So and I'll turn this into my language just to make sure that I've heard you correctly, James. So basically for the bookkeeping, the payroll and the final accounts, it's a cost per customer, per client. So you can have as many users as you want. It's the number of clients that are important. And then in addition, if you want to add anybody into the CRM because they're doing the money laundering stuff or they're producing the proposals, they're just basically £29 plus VAT per person, basically for that element of it.
Right. Correct.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you. I'm slightly conscious of the time. We've got 3 minutes left, James. So if anybody's got any further questions, if you want to pop them in the Q&A box, we've got a brief moment for James to answer them. Mark has put the URL for you to click in order for you to have a more in-depth conversation with James going forward. So please feel free to click that. The last question that I've got in is from Turu, James. Integration with Xero. If we've got a client that is using Xero, can Nomisma integrate with Xero, extract the TBA of Xero? How does that work?
No. Yep. Very, very soon, as in I'm talking weeks, we're doing final beta testing for Xero and for QuickBooks, so that if you've got a client that's using that at the moment, what it is push data, so push it from that software package. It doesn't go back the other way though. So if you make any adjustments or amendments in Nomisma, you'll have to obviously change them back yourself manually. But the push piece from Xero and QuickBooks, yes, that will go straight into Nomisma. So you don't need to do a mapping file, which is how it exists right now at this moment. But in the next week or so, we're going to be releasing this. So you have that direct integration.
And will that be pushing the data into Nomisma on a real-time basis, will it? That'll be arriving as it happens. And when I say real time, I know lots of it isn't actually real time, but overnight or daily, it will be transferred into Nomisma.
It's a good question. Nivi, do you know the answer to that one? Just to introduce Nivi, I've got Nivi on with me on the meeting today as well, just for that extra technical support, just in case. Nivi, do you know if that's the case or?
Hi everyone. So this will just be the final trial balance that will come through from Xero or QuickBooks. So once you've completed all of your work on Xero or QuickBooks, you come onto Nomisma and you click on a button to say you want to import the final trial balance from the other system.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you, Nivi. That answers that question perfectly. Thank you. So we are at 10:30. Let me just check. There's no questions over there. There's no questions over there. That just leaves me to remind everybody that the link to book a conversation with James is in the chat box. So you click that link and set that call up. And if you're watching the video on YouTube, it will be down here somewhere for you to click it. That just leaves me to say thank you very much, James. I've got a feeling that there's a massive amount of opportunity within the software that you've not had an opportunity to share today. So please have that conversation with James and see if it works for you. So that just leaves me to say thank you to everybody that's come along today and asked the questions. As I always say, it's the power of your questions, the questions that come from the community, that make these conversations the conversations that they are. And to say thank you, James, for coming along and for sharing.
Thanks for your time, and I appreciate everyone taking the time to listen to me today. Go rattle on, but yeah, really looking forward to hearing from you. Reach out to me direct or reach out via the link that's been provided. Look forward to speaking to you all soon.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for watching this video with James Coley from Nomisma, who has shared how you can improve your client's journey with your practice. As always, if you've got any comments or questions, please post them below the video and we'll gladly answer them for you. Please remember to like the video and also subscribe to the channel so you get notified the next time we upload any content to inspire, challenge, and support you to run the best practice you can. On the screen now, somewhere you should see our suggestions for the next 2 videos that you should watch.